A First Nation near White River is taking action to protect its local fishery. Good evening and thank you for joining us. It's happening at Netamassagamig Nishnabeg, formerly known as Pic-Mobert First Nation.
Community officials say the Ministry of Natural Resources hasn't acted to prevent commercial-scale fishing on White Lake. Lee Noonan is in studio to tell us more. Lee?
Thank you, Riley. The First Nation has established a checkpoint off Highway 17 and they're monitoring fishing activities in their territory. The chief says they want to protect the local walleye population during the sensitive spawning season. Lands and Resources workers with Netamassagamig Nishnabeg will be out on White Lake and manning a checkpoint just off the highway for the duration of the walleye spawning season. Their goal is to prevent netting and commercial-scale fishing in their territory.
We are people of White Lake, Netamassagamig. Fish is our food source here, and it's important for our future generation too. So we fish in a sustainable way, and when we fish in a sustainable way, it allows us to think 7 generations ahead for our youth, the young people, the future generations, that they have fish available as well.
Chief Louis Kwissawa says they are taking the matter into their own hands after years of calling on the Ministry of Natural Resources to, quote, do their jobs and prevent unethical and unsustainable fishing practices on White Lake. Kwissawa says Ontario and the MNRF have failed the First Nation.
We've had no response from them. They're not here. They haven't been here. So we're just going to take our role as stewards of the land and to do what we're supposed to be doing. And we're doing that here right now.
Kwissawa says there's a particular concern with the MNRF overlooking non-members who assert Aboriginal fishing rights in Netamassagamig Nishnabeg territory. A spokesperson for the ministry says they're encouraging a dialogue-based solution and that conservation officers routinely patrol White Lake and will investigate matters on a case-by-case basis. Kwissawa says protecting the lake is a matter of sovereignty.
Over the years, we've been asserting our jurisdiction, and a part of asserting our jurisdiction is looking after our lakes and looking after the fish and looking after all the wildlife around here, and that's who we are, and we'll continue to assert our jurisdiction to protect our fish and waters.
The White Lake checkpoint has received support from Marathon Mayor Rick Dumas and Bigtagun Nishnabeg Chief Duncan Michano. It will be manned 24/7 until the end of the walleye spawn, which is expected to last until mid to late May. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
A lengthy standoff in Kenora has come to an end. OPP say it started at 8 o'clock Monday night, following reports about a barricaded person at a residence north of the city. A section of Highway 658 was shut down for about 20 hours, while OPP crisis negotiators dealt with the situation. One person was eventually arrested on firearms charges. No one was hurt, and the area is no longer closed off, but a criminal investigation continues.
An injured owl found in Webequie First Nation has been transferred to a Thunder Bay Rescue Agency.
The owl was flown in by North Star Air and handed over to Jen Salo, the owner of Thunderbird Wildlife Rescue, who will help bring it back to good health. Neb Van Pelt has the details.
On average, Thunderbird Wildlife Rescue helps care for and rehabilitate around 50 birds of prey per year. Founder and owner Jen Salo received a call Monday evening about an owl that was found on the ground unable to fly, and explained the process of what happens in this situation.
I walk them through the whole capturing process and then what to put it in, because, you know, like especially with a broken wing, you don't want to put it in any sort of wire cage or anything like that, right? And you want to keep it as quiet as possible so that it's not panicking and causing more damage to itself. And I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that the break is something that's going to be fixable.
The great grey owl that was being rescued is one of Ontario's largest owls. It was accompanied by one of Ontario's smallest owls, the saw-whet, which Salo was also bringing to the vet. She explained the threats the birds face and why most of the owls they rescue tend to be males.
He's got potentially 4 other owls to hunt for, not just himself. And it's hard enough just to hunt for yourself, right? So they're taking risks. They're hunting roadways because that's where it's plentiful with mice and voles, right, on the sides of the roads in the ditches. So that's where, unfortunately, a lot of these birds are getting hit.
Salo also explained what people in the community can do to help.
The first thing I always ask people if they find injured wildlife, please send pictures. Send pictures, send videos, especially if it's not in Thunder Bay and it's something that's remote or going to be hours long drive. I want to be able to see the condition of the animal, to be able to give accurate advice on what to do about it.
People can also offer their support by buying tickets to a 50-50 draw, with all proceeds going to Thunderbird Wildlife Rescue. Nev Van Pelt, TBT News.
Ontario Provincial Police, in collaboration with police services across the province, have made dozens of arrests as part of an investigation into online child sexual exploitation.
Two Thunder Bay men, a 28-year-old and an 18-year-old, are among those who were taken into custody as part of what's been dubbed Project Aquatic. CTV's Mike Walker has the story.
Provincial police call the results of an online child exploitation investigation staggering.
We were reacting to complaints from different electronic service providers, so services like any of the social media platforms.
The province-wide investigation, dubbed Project Aquatic, took place over 10 days in February and involved 27 police forces.
There was the one case of luring that you referenced, and that was a case where a officer engaged covertly online and engaged with a person who wanted to meet with a child in real life for a sexual purpose.
Police completed 129 investigations and identified 34 victims. 30 children, they say, were safeguarded. 64 people between the ages of 16 and 89 were arrested. They are facing a combined 348 charges. Among those charged is 26-year-old Tyler Pennells, an education assistant with the Toronto Catholic District School Board. The OPP commissioner says the results are just the tip of the iceberg.
The targeting of these victims has been enhanced through the introduction of AI technology. There's very little on the internet that regulates perpetrators who are looking for victims. They have the ability to identify and groom potential victims, and this causes a great concern for us.
Investigators also see 607 electronic devices. The Canadian Centre for Child Protection says 3,000 complaints are received monthly. Nearly 30% are from Ontario.
We're continuing to see an escalation in these types of crimes, so sadly it's not terribly surprising, and we also know that this is simply the tip of the iceberg. We know that there's tons of files that police can't even get to.
They are calling for governments to act and regulatory changes for online platforms. Mike Walker, CTV News, Toronto.
Separate from that massive investigation, a 21-year-old man has also been arrested by Thunder Bay Police for possessing and accessing child pornography. Alan Justin Gomez was charged after officers seized a number of electronic devices from a Woodlawn Avenue home earlier today. Justin Gomez has already appeared in court and remains in custody.
The Ministry of Health is pushing back against the Ontario Medical Association over issues surrounding the recruitment and retention of doctors. The OMA has repeatedly warned that more than 2 million people don't have a family doctor, and thousands of physician jobs are going unfilled. The province is in the midst of negotiations with the OMA for the next Physician Services Agreement, which determines how doctors are compensated.
McDonald's restaurants across Canada, including here in Thunder Bay, are celebrating the 30th annual McHappy Day. The campaign plays a big role in providing Ronald McDonald House charities with the funds they need to support thousands of families each year. The general manager of the McDonald's on Red River Road, Robert Armstead, says they're selling McHappy Day socks and paper hats all day long to support the charity. Proceeds from all food and drink purchases will also go to help families who use the Ronald McDonald houses in London and Toronto. Armstead calls it a very important campaign.
A lot of families from Thunder Bay need specialized care down in centers that have it, and could get kind of expensive being down in these areas for long periods of time. So the houses can help provide a family with a place to stay while their children are going through something very difficult. So we're very happy to provide that service and build up some funds for them to take care of their children during their tough times.
Since the first Ronald McDonald House opened its doors in Toronto back in 1981, Fundraisers like McHappy Day have been able to help support more than 468,000 families across Canada.
Last month's Polar Bear Plunge exceeded all expectations.
Organizers set a $70,000 fundraising goal prior to the event, but the community showed up and raised more than double that amount. Josh Morano was at today's wrap-up event.
So with the 14th annual Polar Bear Plunge, the grand total is $166,000.
On April 6th, the total of 56 teams and 412 plungers participated to support different charities across the city. Event sponsor PDR Contracting set out a goal of $75,000 to kick off the event, and by the end, $166,000 was donated. The donations kicked off with a $20,000 contribution from PDR, who also helped make the hole for participants to jump into. Company rep Maggie Ferrens says everyone was blown away by the amount of support they received for the event this year.
It just means so much for the community of Thunder Bay, those 4 local organizations. This event was the biggest we've had to date, and we couldn't be more proud of it. There were people there from morning to afternoon, cheering, clapping. It just shows that anything we can do, we can continue to grow this event, and we hope for next year to grow it even more.
Resolute Forest Products led the event as the top team, collecting around $12,000, while the top individual fundraiser was Doug Boardman at Lakehead Motors. The staff here at Dougal Media had a blast wearing their old-timey news costumes and finishing 4th overall in donations. The money is going to 4 local charities: CNIB Thunder Bay, Pro Kids, Special Olympics Thunder Bay, and the Roots Community Food Center. Roots Executive Director Aaron Beagle says their $41,000 share is going to go a long way for them.
Honestly, I don't think that there's an aspect that this funding doesn't touch when you sort of look at the round out of all these 4 charities together and what it supports. And I love the idea that when somebody plunges, they're supporting everybody. Even though they might have a favorite, they're supporting everybody.
We didn't expect to be the most, but we had a great time. We had 15 people that came, and everybody put a big effort out to find, and I expect next year that we'll double the number of people that we've got to participate in the Polar Bear Plunge.
Along with all the businesses, some schools participated as well, with Crestview Public winning top school team. Next year's Polar Bear Plunge is already set, with the event taking place on April 5th. Josh Morano, TBT News.
I love how Josh, a guy who did not plunge with us last month, said the TBT News team had a blast.
Absolutely, taking the words, putting words in our mouth, I feel.
Yeah, he had a blast, roasty and warm. No, it was a ton of fun, obviously raising a lot of money for a lot of great charities.
It is.
Absolutely fantastic. But Fiona, I am very happy that the temperatures have warmed up since then.
Yes, this is definitely an improvement, and a very seasonal one at that. Partly to mostly sunny skies for much of the day. We started off with a low of 6. We warmed up to a very seasonal 16 with winds from the east ranging anywhere from 8 to 30 kilometers per hour as the day progressed. Now, if we take a look at what temperatures are doing across the region, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Now, it's definitely warmer to the west. We've got 20 Celsius, loads of sunshine today in Fort Frances. As we head a little further north, the temperature takes a bit of a hit, but actually for Red Lake, this is bang on for the money. Seasonal temperatures at 16 with, again, a whole lot of sunshine. Now, as you head further east, the temperatures start to slip a little bit. So look out Upsala, Atikokan, all currently also at 16, but then we hit 13 in Armstrong, 11 in Greenstone, where they started out with a fair amount of cloud. It's been diminishing all day, but despite the increase in sunshine, it is still a little bit cooler. Along the North Shore in the low teens, and Sault Ste. Marie actually started out with light rain showers in the early morning hours, tapered off, and they've been mostly cloudy most of the day. They're currently at a fairly seasonal 15, as is Wawa. Now, here in the city of Thunder Bay, it's going to be a little bit cooler tonight. Temperatures are going to drop down to 2, and that's partially due to the lack of cloud cover to hold in any of today's heat that we accumulated during the day. It's going to be clear to start, but then we will see a few increasing clouds, but winds will stay light from the northeast, 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. And as we head into the second half of the work week, Well, Thursday's looking pretty gray and a little bit cooler than we saw today, but don't panic because the temperatures are going to rise again for Friday, and as we head into the weekend, they're expected to stay actually a couple of degrees above normal for this time of year. So I don't think anybody will really have much to complain about on the weekend, except for Ryan, who just likes to find things to complain about.
Absolutely.
Or either just
He'll
me.
figure it
I'll
out.
find something. Yeah, I like to complain to you. That's the key element of this.
I know.
Complain
I
to
get
you.
it. I know my role.
All right. Thanks a lot, Fiona. All right, let's turn our attention to international news. Now, we told you yesterday that the Israeli military had begun its operation in Rafah, a military operation that international allies had warned against. Well, today comes word that the U.S. has halted an arms shipment that was headed for Israel. We'll tell you more about that when the NewsHour continues after the break.
This is the fourth time we've moved around Gaza. He says nowhere is safe.